Thank you for tuning in to Koppen Comic. I'm Brian Koppen. We're with comic Tuxford Turner. Tuxford Turner, how the hell are you?
I'm good. You really made that intro as difficult for yourself as it could possibly be.
Yes. So I do this canned intro and everybody only hears the good one, but man, there's several bad ones. And so Tuxford Turner, we follow Tuxford everywhere. They have a link tree, Tuxford Turner, also Tuxford Turner on Instagram. But do I have your Twitter up? But you also have Tuxford Turner. Oh, come on. We need to retweet your funny shit, right?
No, I like my brain the way it is. You know, I don't. Every time I step on Twitter, I get into a conversation about Twitter. It just like hurts a little too much. So
yeah, I just had Ben Auksher on, and he was like, man, like that algorithm would just like feed me shit because it knew it would piss me off. And so, would you find yourself just getting into like down into the rabbit hole of just arguments with people on Twitter, or no?
Yeah, well, it's not even necessarily arguments. I just like I do have a lot of friends and people I appreciate and look up to, and I listen to a lot of podcasts that are very plugged into Twitter. And I think it just sort of, in my experience, I'm just speaking for myself, but it sort of trains you to believe that like the things that you're seeing on Twitter is just like the entirety of discourse, you know? Like I've had a lot of people like say to like make broad statements about like my generation or people my age or like queer people or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, you're talking about someone who has 140 characters and will react in a moment. Like if you sit and have a conversation with me in person for 5 minutes, you'll realize that like we have a lot more common ground than like you think, you know. So
yes, well, that's what you're gonna do today. I mean, you're gonna teach me.
Excellent.
Because like I talk about this stuff all the time because I'm crazy interested in it. But like there's a difference between with sexuality, you know, there's a difference between your gender presentation, your sexual orientation, sexual attraction, like, you know, who, you know, like for example, like I've always been like this, where it's just like I don't want to be a dilettante about this shit, but if I had my choice, like if I could lose all the weight, I would love to just go on hormones, but I still wouldn't present as a chick. Okay. I'd just be hotter as a dude, but like I would just go home and just wail on my shit. All right. So but I would still be attracted to women. So I would be like, and I should talk about this because like I'll never lose the weight and I'll never do this shit. But like I would be so I'd be a trans person expressing as a male, and I'd still be attracted to females. And so like I wouldn't even know how to term that. How would you term that? And I like this is just thought exercise.
So, yeah, totally. I want to preface this conversation by saying that like we checked in ahead of time and you asked if there are things I was interested in, and I brought this to the table. I just want to say like there's a lot of trans and queer people who like have the energy and patience to like talk and teach and have these conversations, and it's just always good to like check in ahead of time. So I just wanted to like affirm that we've done that.
Oh, good. Thank you. Because some listeners could be like, nah, dude, what the fuck is he putting this person on the spot for?
Yeah, I'd be like, well, I want to talk about comedy. No. I'm super down because I mean, I'm really passionate about like creating spaces where we can have these conversations and like in like a safe way where you're not like catching your trans friend off guard while they're trying to just like have a chill day. You know?
You thought we'd be talking about comedy here. It's like,
yeah. Well, okay, so there's a lot. Obviously, we're not going to cover everything in 20 minutes, and I'm also not like the foremost expert on these things. If you really want to dig in, like there's awesome books that I can recommend for you. There's great podcasts, great all sorts of media out there.
Yeah, give me one of each before we go into it, because we'll never get back to it. What's a good book and a good podcast on it?
Yeah, sure. Well, my favorite podcast just about queer stuff in general is a podcast called Tales from the Closet. It's actually discontinued, but it's a really like comforting space where this comedian Allie Beardsley, who I absolutely adore, like brings people on and they just talk about like their experiences being queer. And it was the first space where I just experienced people just being like so welcoming and open, and not the first space, but it was the one that like really hit me when I needed it, you know?
Okay.
And then give me just a second. You might have to cut out some dead space here because as soon as you put me on the spot, I completely blank. There's a book called Gender Outlaw by Kate Bornstein. is really lovely. Kate Bornstein has this great book called Gender Outlaw, which I think is just about like playing with gender. Obviously, Judith Butler is like the foundational, like talking about gender performance and all this stuff. And then I have a book, if you're interested in the history, I have a book called Transgender History. It's over on my shelf right over there by Susan Stryker. And that's a really great sort of like look into sort of the history of the trans movement, trans community from the perspective of a trans person.
So thank you. And then like, yeah, so using my kind of hypothetical, I lose weight, which is of course not necessary. I
Sure.
go on hormones, male to female.
So you're taking testosterone blockers and estrogen.
Yes, perfect. And I've looked
Okay.
that stuff up already. Meaning I'm interested in it. It's just like you have to be committed to the role. I mean, not that, fat people cannot be, but and
Yeah,
so then I would
huge,
I would still like, to the extent I dated anybody, because I don't really date a lot of people because I don't enjoy it. But to the extent I
Cool.
would, it would just be only women, and I would still present as a dude, just because I would not. I still don't, I don't know. I mean, like, dudes get treated differently, of course, and I can pass as a dude. Like, meaning like it's just easy. It would be so super easy, and of course, people are, that's just how it would be done. That's how I would do it. So in those, with that hypothetical, explain to me what gender, gender expression, sexuality, etc.
Cool. So if I was talking to this person, which I am,
Hey.
I first of all say you don't need to lose weight for any part of this. Like,
Right.
I guess that can be your personal sort of journey, but that has really nothing to do with like your gender presentation.
Absolutely. No, that's my ignorance. But yeah, I said as much. That is not important. That is not important to the thing. That's just my personal thing.
No, all good. It's just you. That's a nice, part of sort of the journey you want to take. That's all good. What I would say is that like I'm non-binary, right? Like, and that's specifically the belief that binary gender, so two genders, sort of boxes us into this socialization that isn't healthy for anyone.
Okay.
And I don't necessarily believe, I think that I don't want to like erase anyone's sort of binary gender identity. I think if you do identify as like a man or a woman, that's great. If it's comfy for you, if you like that, that's great. But for me, what I'm hearing from you is that there are aspects of masculinity that you really love, and there are aspects of femininity that you really love, but you don't feel like you're able to really embrace them right now. Okay. And what that I think would boil down to is just that you're not necessarily at a point where you're actively sort of like grappling with that. And I would probably want to sit down and have conversations with you like about socialization and the gender binary and all that sort of stuff, because it doesn't necessarily change who you are. You can, and you don't have to take a maximum dose of estrogen and all this stuff. And like, do you, I'm someone who I've had experience with hormones like in very small amounts because I wanted to sort of like try it out. And my friend Kaz calls it biohacking, where you're like, you just take like a small amount, try it out. There's a lot of really good clinics that
because I start crying or something. Yeah, sorry to interrupt you there. But
no,
like, and it's just like, so like you can kind of decide on the dose that you feel comfortable with.
Yeah, absolutely. And it depends on the state you live in. But there's a lot of great clinics. I can't remember, there's an exact term for them. But basically the sort of common practice, the most common practice for getting any sort of hormones is that you have to like go and have the same therapist for like 2 years.
Yeah,
and
fuck that shit. I've already researched just a couple places in New York that are kind of around that requirement.
Yep. It's called like affirmative consent, I think. And basically all you do is you walk in and you're like, this is what I want to do. They walk you through all of the side effects and the dangers of it. And you sign a sheet that says you understand that.
Yes.
You bank your semen if you need to do that, like do whatever sort of things you got to do. I couldn't afford that, which is one of the reasons I haven't continued. But
I do. I love how that sounds. You tell anybody like I'm just going out there and be like, yeah, I banked my semen today, and they'll be like, congrats, bro. Congrats. There's nothing more masculine than banking your semen.
They're like, they're like, oh, you want to go to dinner? No, I just had to pay my $125 yearly cost to keep my semen frozen.
Yeah.
But yeah, and they'll hold your hand throughout the process and sort of talk to you about whether what you're doing is aligning with your goals and how you're feeling, and make sure your kidneys are all good, test your blood, all that stuff. And I would probably, from what it sounds like, like this hypothetical
Yeah.
person is
And
is
I've talked
experienced.
about this on other episodes too. It's not just me talking to you. Like I've actually talked
Yeah,
about
yeah.
this with several people on the pod. And it's like, of course, nobody will find it because I mean I have hundreds of episodes and just and that about half as many hours of podcasting. So nobody will ever find it. So I feel
Yeah,
comfortable talking about this hypothetical man.
no, it's great. Yeah. This hypothetical man. I think this person is going through what I'm just gonna say you just for the simplicity of
Please
the
do. But I
hypothetical.
love this person. That's my pronoun or something.
Yeah, this person, they are going through this. Yeah, I would say like what I would encourage this person to do is just to start playing, start trying stuff out, start seeing ways in which like their current gender expression, their gender performance, which is like the Judith Butler original term, like gender is just a performance. So like seeing what parts of that performance are and aren't sort of vibing with you,
Okay.
and then playing around with it,
It's more of the body thing. Like I'm going to express the same way.
Sure.
And I'm going to
Yeah.
date the same people. It's just that like the body thing is like, dude, like even me at my thinnest, it's just like men are gross. Like meaning men's like that's why I'm not attracted to dudes because I'm also not attracted to myself. Like men are fucking gross. Everything that makes a person like this is just all personal. Like everything that makes a man is repulsive to me. And so if
That's
I see
interesting.
it, I'm attracted to trans females, like meaning like I'm just more like muscles and body hair. I'm just like that is the fucking disgusting. So meaning like I don't like that about myself either. So it's just body shit. And so what would you reckon in my case? I wouldn't, I'm not really worried about expression because I'll never express differently.
No, what I'm hearing is sort of a significant amount of gender dysphoria in some way or another. Like I'm hearing you just saying like I'm not sort of satisfied with like my body as it is. I'm not satisfied with, and I think ultimately that might translate into some socializations. Like just you seem like someone who's very in touch with like their emotions and their sensitivities, and like being even more able to do that and to be like more feminine. Like a major sort of discovery for me, as I'm primarily attracted to like femininity in whatever form that takes.
Yes.
But
Thank you, Tuxford. Now you're
yeah,
talking.
exactly. Yeah, but and that's not represented a lot, right? Like I grew up and I was like, oh, if I if I want to date, say a cis woman, they're probably not going to be attracted to me if I'm sort of like as flowy and whatever feminine as I want to be, and a major discovery for me was doing that, saying whatever, I don't care. Actually, I didn't date anyone for like 5 years. I was like saying whatever, talking to a therapist a lot and having therapists be like, it is worth it. You're going to find someone who will really appreciate it and love you. And then realizing that once I really embraced that and did that, I found people that loved me and were attracted to me in ways that were so much more fulfilling and exciting and wonderful than I had ever expected, because they were like truly engaging with me, like,
wow, I need that therapist because I haven't dated for decades.
Trans therapists. Wow. Ooh, they're the best. Highly recommend. They're in a high demand. I tell you that. They're hard to find, but if you can get one, ooh, yeah. Oh, they're the best. Absolutely. I love my therapist. She recently had to change practices and isn't in my insurance anymore. And I did cry about it. I did cry about it. It took me 2 years to find her. I was with her for a year and a half and then had to leave.
Because that's what I heard too. Like there's a trans person on and that person talked about, like their doctor is shitty on these issues. And I'm like, why are you still with this doctor? And they're like, because of insurance. It's awful that you went through the same thing. Like, and I would hate to deal with it. I'd hate to deal with all that bullshit because I'm also low maintenance. I don't go to doctors. And so like, part of gender expression as a dude is real lazy. And so like the last thing I want to do is also make doctor's appointments. And it's just like, they check my blood. And that's one reason to lose weight too. Cause I don't even know if I'd be able to go on hormones at this weight.
Yeah. I mean, they would check. I think you'd probably be fine with you. I mean, I don't know. I don't know you, but or like truly, but you'd probably be fine. They would test your blood, but they're more checking for like potassium levels and stuff because like the hormones can mess with that and can give you like kidney stones if you're not like keeping an eye on it.
So I should get no bananas, right? Should I eat bananas or avoid bananas? High potassium is bad, right?
Honestly, the thing to actually avoid if you're on, at least what I was on, is low sodium, anything low sodium, because they replace the sodium with like sodium I'm making pulling this out of my butt, but it's a sort of a type of like salty thing that
Oh,
is that
I love
it's like
this. You said I'm gonna pull this out of my butt. It's a salty
salty
thing.
thing. Well, I was gonna say the scientific term for it, and then I'm like, I can't do that. I'm just gonna be lying. But no, it's if you look on like low sodium bottles, like there's always something. It's like it's almost like sodium, but it's like sodium potassiate or something. That's not
That's
what it is,
fine.
but
That's
it's
what gets you the spike levels. Okay.
yeah, and that'll sort of like gather up in your kidneys and give you kidney stones, which is
Ah,
not fun when you're trying to be out and fun and having a good time. But okay, so here's the deal. So when you go in though, they are gonna sort of when I went in, I've been aware that I experienced gender dysphoria for a long time. Like when I first started really engaging with this stuff, because for a long time I just didn't feel like I like deserved to. Like I would sit and I remember when I was a kid, I would be like, am I gay? I don't think that's it. Am I a woman? Like I don't think that's it, like
yeah,
and
I love that. You're like, you go through the checklist
yep.
and you're like, am I gay? And then you're like, no, I don't think that's it. Like,
Yeah, you're like,
because you're
I'm
like,
clearly not.
do I find that person attractive? No, that person is hideous. Like every
Yeah.
man in here. And I usually do it this way, where it's like you can find out who you're attracted to by seeing how ugly of a person of that sex you would fuck. And so like women, I would go all the way down to a 5. And then a dude, like it's that whole like if Brad Pitt propositioned me, I'd still be like, it's still kind of fucking gross, man. Dude's kind of hairy, like meaning dude smells, dude got muscles. It's all fucking disgusting. Like I don't even know if I'd fuck a male 10 if I was wasted, but I'd fuck
Damn,
I'd
a
fuck
10?
yeah. I mean, I'd fuck a
Ew.
feminine presenting person if they're a 5, probably.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't
isn't that
know.
a good
If
test though?
someone
You like my test?
No, yeah, I mean if someone's nice enough to me, I'm like, all right, okay, cool, I'm a bit of a pushover in that regard. But no, like yeah, I mean on that one of the podcasts I mentioned earlier, one of the things that really resonated with me was that there are a lot of like bisexual or like queer identifying people who didn't really get there because they're like, well, I'm attracted to my quote unquote opposite sex,
Yeah.
as we were sort of socialized to believe. So easy peasy. I'm
Yeah.
nothing,
Yeah.
And for me, it's like, yeah, I am like really attracted to women and femininity. And it took me a long time to sort of like start separating that from like my gender and all this stuff. And when I was in college, I took a sex and gender and society class, which was really fun. And I was like, this will be an interesting class.
Oh no, how did that go?
And it was full. It was great. It was
Oh,
full.
okay.
I honestly, the professor, I think, probably hated me because I never finished my homework because I would take too many notes and I would just run out of time.
Oh,
But I would sit in that class and it was like half the men's lacrosse team was in that class for some reason.
what?
And they were like, this is really interesting stuff. And they're like, this is so good. Like, wow, yeah, oh, that's really cool, which is like great. I'm very
Why were
they
they
were so
like
wonderful.
that?
I don't know, they're just supportive.
First time they'd heard that shit? They're just
Yeah, I
like,
mean,
this is
honestly,
really
for
fascinating. I didn't know this stuff
like
existed.
for me too, it was some of the
Okay.
first time I had heard some of this. And so like and so they were just really fascinated, but I was sitting in the back crying, like
Uh-huh.
they're like enjoying this theoretical conversation and I'm like sobbing and I don't know why, I'm
Because it
like,
was part of your experience, like they were kind of
yeah.
hitting some notes that you had personal
Yep.
experience with.
Yeah, it would
Wow.
just be like we were like breaking down like the history of gender and like how socialization works and all these experiences that like it was like, what are some experiences that maybe like affected who you were as a child and all this stuff. I'm like talking about them and I just be like, oh my god, like oh my god, I was just like digging up traumas that I'd forgotten about and like and
Taking notes through your tears.
yeah, for
I
real,
love
yeah.
that.
Yeah, and it was really hard for me to talk about. Like I brought it home and I was trying to talk to my mom about it and she took it very personally because she raised me very like progressive. She was my parents were both very progressive. Like it's hard because it's like with talking with parents, it feels like everything that you did as a parent affected your child and
Yeah.
like and whatever the good parts and the bad parts are all your fault and so I was trying to say like society did this to me and she heard it because I wasn't being particular with my words as like you did this to me, which was
Oh gosh.
never the case, right? Like I was like we would go to stores and I'd be like, I like these shoes, I like this shirt or whatever.
Yeah.
And it'd be in the women's section. So we were talking with my sister and she'd be like, okay, well, let's get it. Like, nobody's going to know. Like, if you like it, we should get it.
Yeah.
And I would be like, no, it's not a boy's shirt. I need a
Oh.
boy's shirt,
Oh wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And God, where is I going with this? Anyway,
And so,
the
yeah, well, I
point is
mean,
like,
did you at any point, like, your discussions later in life when you kind of learned,
mhm.
what you wanted to, you kind of figured your shit out. Like, did you tell, only meaning not shit derogatory, but you know what I mean? Like, if you're like, okay, here's what my presentation is going to be, here's what my track to
Mhm.
do, blah, blah, blah. Like, did you, talk to the parents and what did they say? Because it sounds like
Mhm.
she was pretty understanding of you kind of looking at a woman's item earlier when you were young. What was their
Yeah.
reaction now, if you could say?
Yeah. Oh, well, they're awesome now. Like now, honestly, it's mostly, I mean, they've always been trying to be very, very open and accepting. I just like, so like I said earlier, like little things when you're talking to trans people can like triggers, obviously a loaded word, but like, but
Okay.
can like literally like trigger little like reactions in you. Like when I went home, the day I was going to talk to my parents at that time, I associated as like gender queer. That's how I identified myself. I was gonna be like, this is who I am, and I would like to talk about it. The same day, my mom was like, I just really have a problem with people who use they them pronouns. It just doesn't make sense to
Oh
me.
no, before you even spoke.
Yeah,
Oh
totally
wow.
benign.
Oh
She's just
shit.
trying to have a conversation, and I snapped. My brain just like snapped, and we argued for like 2 years, and it was ridiculous because like we were on the same page at the whole time. It was just
Yeah.
like she was just saying like literally I've been using this language for so long that it's hard for me to adjust it.
Oh,
And
okay.
then that would spiral because I would get upset and we would just
Oh
like spiral into these
no.
conversations. And my mom and I, we were never fighting. My mom and I don't really fight, but we do have like drawn out theoretical like
Yes.
arguments
You had
like
beef on
to
that issue.
yeah and we do about all sorts of stuff. We've always done it my whole life. We're like we just like we're both really passionate about things and like and it freaks my dad and my sister out because they'll come in, they'll be like, can you stop fighting? And we're like, we're not
Yes.
fighting, we're having a good conversation, like we're just chatting, like come on. But we did it for a long time, and then my mom was like, hey, are we talking about you? And I was like, yeah.
Oh, you
And
mean a long drawn out beef for 2 years? She didn't
yeah.
know. She didn't know that we were
Well,
talking about you.
I just
She would have done it
choked.
differently. Like if it was
I just
impersonal.
choked.
Oh
I completely
no.
choked. And she was like, that's not fair. Like, that's not fair to
Yeah.
me. I didn't know we were talking about you. Like,
We've
I would
been
have,
beefing for years on this, and you didn't know we were talking about you.
yeah.
Oh,
And
that's
that's the
so
thing. She was
unfair.
like,
But I mean, no, like
she's,
for you, you were freaked because you're like, if I
mhm.
can't break down this barrier, my mom is going to disown me when she figures out I'm
Yeah.
gender queer, right? Oh
I was just like,
no.
she was just like, I just can't get through my brain. I'll never grow. And I was like, you have to. And she
Oh
didn't know why. I was like,
no.
I need you to grow,
And so the
because
minute
she
she
would,
figured it out, was she then accepting?
oh yeah, totally.
Oh my
Like
gosh, what a
I
waste of
still,
2 years, right? You like to
I know.
argue though, so you're like, I enjoyed those two
Yeah,
years.
I'm like, this is fine. But
Okay.
I don't currently like I don't use like gender neutral pronouns with my family just because
Okay.
like I just get tired of having the conversation all the time.
Yeah.
And I don't mind. Like they've been doing it my whole life, and I don't mind. That's my own personal sort of experience with it.
Okay.
But everything else, like my mother's very accepting. Oh, she's really funny though. She we have very similar brains. Like earlier in this call, I was like forgetting names and words of stuff, and like she passed that on to me. So like
Oh no.
she will always, every time she signs off on a phone call, she'd be like, all right, see you, dude.
Oh no.
Guy, person.
Oh no.
I'm like, mom, it's so okay. Like
It's like I
I
love you,
already
mom.
told you, I love you. I honestly do love being called dude. Like it's cool. Like
Yeah, I
I
think I
love.
said it once and it was totally gender neutral, but I think dude's gender neutral, right? But
It
even when we
depends
were
on the
talking about
person.
Kate Bornstein, you were like, yeah, Kate, whatever her name is, Kate Bornstein's book. And you were
Mhm.
like, Kate Bornstein wrote this book. Kate Bornstein's book is called this. And I was like, I don't think Tuxford remembers the pronouns.
Oh, well, Kate
Meaning, like,
Bornstein.
does Kate have special pronouns? It sounded like you were trying to avoid, maybe because you just didn't have it on the tip of your tongue, what the pronouns
Uh,
were.
well, no,
But
I mean, I generally will always default to someone's name as much as possible because that
yeah,
is my personal preference.
yeah, it's promotional. I say Tuxford Turner all the time because I was like, Tuxford Turner is a badass. Like I
I know
want
you
everybody
wake
to
up in the
know.
morning, you're like Tuxford Turner.
Yeah.
Just Tuxford. No, I default to people's names because I think that's the most sort of comfy and accepting thing. It's like when you say someone's name, it feels good, better than any arbitrary one syllable word.
Yeah.
But Kate Bornstein specifically has a really interesting relationship with gender. I believe Kate, my friend, my pal Kate, uses she and they pronouns, at least at
Okay.
the publication of the book that I specifically read, like the version that I was reading,
Okay.
because like she existed as like a trans woman a long time and I like a lesbian. Oof, I hope I'm correct.
Apologies to
But
Kate. We were speaking
apologies,
about you
Kate.
glowingly.
I love you. You changed my life. You're amazing. A great playwright, an amazing person. Wrote Gender Outlaw again.
There you
Just
go.
a plug for Kate Bornstein's book. But Kate Bornstein is like truly amazing. And then got to a point as while she was writing this book that was like, I wish that I had the language that we have now earlier in my life, because I'm realizing that like I just want to fuck around with it. Like the theory is all about like play, and it's like gender is performance and performance is play, and like everyone baseline should be having fun with their gender, should be having fun with the way they present in the world. And the main issue with like gender binaries is that it sort of strips away a lot of that fun. It's like you need to be this or else, you need to be this or else, you know, like
it's like if you just treat me with some basic fucking respect, I can go play. Like let me play. Like I'm not the one who should be making that. Like I'm not the one making this seriously. You're turning this into an issue. If you just fucking got over it, we could play. Because and I love that too, because I'm watching an Instagram, and it's like you're playing, like, and that's nothing is more conducive to comedy than Tuxford Turner on Instagram. But we got to get Tuxford on Twitter. But in the meantime, there's a link tree, Tuxford Turner, tuxfordturner.com. And actually, like, I don't want to put you on the spot, but it said Tux Ford Turner, and I read Ford, and I was like, is this person a Ford model? I was like, look how gorgeous Tuxford is.
Oh, thanks.
And I'll cut this out because that's
no
comedian likes to be told.
Cut out my compliment. Come on, no way. No way.
Like, why was Tuxford so nice to Brian after that? It's like, oh, because he cut out a compliment. And I know you have some comedy content with Ray Tang. And so what can you tell me that, we're almost done, but what can you tell me you have comedy wise? You were so nice to teach me the whole time. For 5 seconds, we got to talk about what you got comedy coming up.
Okay. Yeah. We'll grind that conversation to a halt. We're done. All right. Bray and I are working on a web series called LDR. We shot the first half of it last year, and we're finding a home for right now. We're doing some previews around town, and we're writing part 2, and we're getting that developed. I can't really talk about that too much. But
I think Ray talked about it a little bit. What's the LDR stand for? Is it just later?
Long distance.
Oh, yes. Yep. Yes, because I think Ray was in a long distance relationship for a while. Have you been?
We both were. Yeah. We came together and sort of combined our experiences. And the second half of the series, I'm really excited about, because the episodes are longer, the characterizations are deeper. Like, we got a lot going on. I've got a film called BAM, BAM, that we shot last year, coming out this coming year. We're going to tour it around some independent theaters. We're looking for distribution, all that good stuff.
I've heard good things about Bug House. Is that a good theater or no?
Bug House Theater. Yeah, Bug House is great. Bug House is Chicago is full of just like amazing, supportive spaces, wonderful theaters. But Bug House is primarily like a performance space. So we're taking it to film theaters.
Oh, these are viewing spaces you're looking for. Okay. What's good? What are the good ones for Chicago for that?
Oh yeah. There's so many. The main one that everyone's probably heard of is Music Box. Music Box is the big one down like half a mile away from me on Southport. It's a classic, beautiful big space. And then there's a bunch of other little independent ones. Do they screen it as part of a festival? Music Box. They do all sorts of stuff. They host the Chicago International Film Festival. They're one of the theaters for that. Yeah. There's lots of other theaters. I'm sort of not doing everyone justice by not
that's right.
the other ones, but
no,
it's okay. It's okay. If I had my friend Amani, who's like a film expert, she could give you a list of all the best ones. But Amani Davis, plug for Amani, she's great. But yeah, BAM, LDR, BAM. I've got one scene in a film called Year One that's coming out next year that I really had fun. I play a frat boy. I'm pumped about it.
Yes, just like those lacrosse players in your class, in your sexuality class.
Yeah.
Did you summon them? I hope you channeled them.
Oh yeah. Yes. And I'm in the resident company at the IO Theater, which reopened in October. So you can see us there on weekends. I'm in an ensemble called Rescue Baby.
Okay.
Rescue Baby. We perform all the time. I host an open mic on Thursdays. I'm all over.
Where is your open mic?
It's at Redline VR, which is a bar and performance space that used to be
Rogers Park.
Close my baby.
Rogers
It's
Park?
in Ravenswood.
Oh. So
Yeah.
Redline, is there something called Red? Is there a performance space called Redline, something or other at in Rogers Park, or no? Like up there by Morrison Lunt, the Morrison Lunt stops at Redline? No, not at all.
Maybe,
I just
maybe.
talked over you for no reason. Okay, so where's
No,
your
it's
open mic?
okay.
It's Redline. Say
It's
it
at
again.
Redline VR, which was
Okay.
a bar that I helped build. Literally, first day I worked there, I built the bar. I worked there for 3 years. I was the general manager for a year. Helped sort of build out their performance venue, and now I get to perform there and be a part of the community. I love it there. They play Dungeons and Dragons on Wednesdays, Magic the Gathering on Mondays. We have an open mic Tuesday, Thursday. I host the one on Thursday, which is for women and queer people. But everyone is welcome to come as long as you're cool. And
I
and
love
they do
that.
shows.
Everybody's welcome as long as you're
If you're
cool.
cool. They do shows on Fridays and Saturdays, karaoke. I love it. It's a beautiful space. We shot a stand-up special there last year that we're currently in a couple different distribution talks about as well. So
You
that
you
will.
filmed the stand-up special?
Mhm. Yep. I hosted
Oh,
it with a bunch of my good friends
okay.
and some of my favorite comedians in the city. There's a team called Gag Reflex on there, a 2-person improv team. My friend Sage does a bunch of characters. And then there's stand-ups from Unji Kim, my friend Tristan A. Smith, who's moving to New York soon, who's an absolutely amazing comedian, and musical comedy from Ashley Leiston. I always say Ashley Leiston because it rhymes, but it's not. It's Ashley Leiston.
Yeah, I'm looking at the poster
And
right now. That's amazing. How you can find all this stuff
oh
at
wow, how did you find
Tuxford.
that? That's
Well,
crazy.
it's on Tuxford Turner Instagram, but also,
Yep.
yes, I mean that's where I see all these show posters. But Tuxford, you're just living the life.
Yeah, I'm out here. We're living.
We're out here. I love it. It's just
Cast
like,
me in a movie.
oh, I love that. We're out
Everyone.
here. I love that. It's just like the phrase for hustle culture. Tuxford Turner. Thank you so much for coming on.
That's me. Rise and grind, baby. I love hustle culture. Don't rest. Hate yourself.